we have this concept of halacha Esav soned Yaakov, that Esau hates his brother Jacob, Yaakov. Yet when we read of the encounter between Esav and Yaakov, between Esau and Jacob, a famous encounter, Rav Hirsch has an interesting, I think, interpretation in which the love that Esav seems to have for Jacob, while other commentaries say that really it was crocodile tears, wasn't that real? Rav Hirsch says no, it's clearly real, and it perhaps speaks of an era and a time or a potential. Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi and Antoninus, Judah the Prince and the Roman Emperor Antoninus, who was perhaps Marcus Aurelius, and so there seems to be like this optimism about how the Jewish people can work with the non-Jewish world. Is that a fair understanding of that episode?
Oh, absolutely. I should say your love of history is coming through here. You snuck in a Marcus Aurelius reference. Okay, very good. But I'm very glad you asked that, actually, because I think it points to an important point. You're certainly right that we do have commentaries that are much more negative about Esav, and Chazal tend to be fairly negative about Esav. But I think it's a mistake sometimes to get caught up in one source, and that source somehow becomes the definitive and totality of Jewish thought. You're right, there is a Chazal about halacha Esav soned Yaakov, but there are other sources. We have a very varied tradition. And before I even get to Rav Hirsch, I'll just point out, when Yaakov is waiting for Esav, notice Yaakov himself doesn't know what Esav's thinking, right? We have him preparing for different modes. Is it going to be war? Is it not going to be war? He's not sure. When Esav actually comes, Esav comes and, of course, embraces Yaakov. So what's happening there? So I'm going to do, two extremes in the middle. One extreme would be, again, we'll go with the most negative view first. Esav just wants to attack, and we'll go with the Midrashic view. He even tries to bite Yaakov, but, miracle occurs, and he is unable to harm Yaakov. That would be obviously the most negative portrayal of where Esav's coming from. On the other side, by the way, even looking at Rishonim, I think it's in the Rashbam, if I remember correctly. It's either Rashbam or Sforno, one of them. Some commentaries think that Yaakov misread it. He was never coming to attack, actually. The 400 man was just like Esav's entourage. He's an important fellow. And it wasn't an attack from the get-go. Okay, so that would be the other extreme. There is a middle position, which states that Esav came to attack, but when he saw Yaakov, he had a change of heart. And he was not trying to attack when he embraced him. That was authentic. So I would say, to some degree, even the middle position perhaps shines a more positive light on Esav, maybe even the most positive light, where you're saying that here's someone who waited years to get his revenge and came with an army where he was capable of inflicting damage, and yet chose at the last minute to reconcile. So I think we do have a strong sense of other possibilities. And now to pick up on your point, Rav Hirsch is someone who tends to be more positive about the non-Jewish world. Okay, maybe we'll discuss this. Obviously, him experiencing emancipation in the 1800s could be playing a role. At the same time, I think it does, again, fit his optimism, right? If one is going to be optimistic about humanity, maybe it's not just Jewish humanity. Maybe your optimism will go to the entire world, and Rav Hirsch will look around and see that non-Jews are also capable of ethically refined behavior, and he'll plug that into Chumash as well. Instead of seeing every non-Jew as a bad guy, they're much more complex. So I would say Rav Hirsch does have a more positive take on the non-Jewish world, and that does very much tie in with his optimism.